Okay. Welcome to the e-NABLE Chapter Leaders Roundtable. My name is John Shull, co-founder of e-NABLE, and I'm here with a number of people who are about to introduce themselves and tell us about what's new, and then we will touch on a few specific topics of particular timeliness. I will pass the torch to Zeynep, so she can introduce herself next.
Okay, so soon. This is Zeynep calling from Istanbul, Turkey. I'm one of the founders and the head of the Turkish chapter. We are an e-NABLE chapter that works all around the country. We are based in Istanbul, but we have volunteers all around the cities, in most of the cities. And we have good news regarding going from a very small, all hands on deck NGO to a more sustainable community. Fortunately, I am hopeful in spite of COVID, which is very, that makes us look more hopeful to other projects in all the world as well.
That's terrific. Well, you are our guest speaker today, so I'll ask you to save the details on your big news for that, and we'll just keep on circulating. But congratulations, that sounds really fun.
And pass it to Jeremy, no?
Pardon me? Jeremy is next? Good. Yeah. Jeremy, who is on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm Jeremy, longtime volunteer and I guess co-founder, but not associated with a chapter, actually. I try to help support our chapters, mostly through our online infrastructure. And that's the main reason I'm here today. I want to sort of understand what the needs are and how best we can support people. I have some particular interest these days in sort of figuring out the right path forward in terms of a matching platform. Our friends in e-NABLE France, as Zeynep knows, have built a new platform that we're looking at and testing. We also have e-NABLE Web Central, and we're trying to just kind of figure out where to go and what the right tool set is and how to best move forward in implementing it. And so I'm hoping to learn from folks today and get some insights in that regard.
And to whom do you pass the torch?
Pass it to Mazvi.
You're on.
No, he's not muted, but we're not getting your audio, Mazvi.
There we go.
There you go.
Click the wrong button. Mazvi from Lithuania, leader of the Seoul Baltic chapter, and also as of right now, the current developer on the e-NABLE hub.
And to whom will you pass the torch? Oh my God.
Alexander. Let's go with Alexander.
Hey all, I'm Alexander. I'm from Romania. I'm a one-year-long volunteer already. And I'm mostly doing chat design around various projects around the hub. Who hasn't presented? I'll pass the torch to Alejandra. Am I reading that right?
Yes, you are. Hi, so I'm Alejandra from the Guadalajara chapter in Mexico. We are, hello. Yeah, I'm working, so I can't turn the camera on. I'm sorry, but I'm glad to be here. And we are not the only chapter in Mexico, but we just became a chapter a few months ago, actually.
And you've actually been working through our little micro grant using the system, the Open Collective system. It's been working out for you?
Yeah, actually, this week we're going to be sending an unlimited arm to one of the states. And we are about to print the dog harness. And we are looking for dogs that need prostheses as well. And we still have cases, but we already fixed one of the printers and we're going to get the other one fixed. So we've been able to to keep working thanks to the Open Collective. So thanks
Well,
for
there
that.
you go. Okay, that's great. That's great. And you pass the torch to Ben Rubin.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ben Rubin. I'm involved with media coordination projects here. And just as a quick reminder, this event is once a month, and it's one of 6 current community events that we are hosting. We have presentations every month, and it's something that is a work in progress. So if anybody has any ideas or suggestions or a new community monthly event they'd like to see, feel free to follow up with me. And with that, I will pass it back to our community leader, John. And I'll add in the chat a link to the full February list of events. And if anybody also is interested in being a community leader to any of these events, like what John is doing, moderating this one, feel free to follow up. Thanks.
In fact, moderation of this one is potentially available as well. I am a chapter leader of Rochester e-NABLE, the Rochester e-NABLE chapter in Rochester, New York, but we currently are not doing much more than what you see Ben and me doing right now. And so other chapter leaders are quite welcome to do this. And frankly, since most of our chapters are in other parts of the world, I guess this would be true for anyone, chapter moderation from another part of the world would be quite welcome. Okay, so
John, actually, if you don't mind me jumping in there, just because of the audience that will hopefully be watching this, I want to add on that I am also seeking. We've been talking about the need for champions lately. I am seeking a champion for the area that I was talking about earlier. You know, this whole topic, and we may not get into it today, that's fine, but this whole topic of a matching platform of how do we connect people needing devices with people that want to make devices, and there's different approaches and different tools, and I would really love to connect with somebody that wants to kind of help us take a lead on that whole effort, doing the needs analysis, putting a plan together. So I just want to put that word out there. I could really use somebody that wants to step up and take the lead on that whole thing.
So let's just, that was in fact the topic I was trying to remember. We had an extensive discussion of this during Friday's town hall meeting, in which it became clear that it's a moment when there's a lot that could be done. We have e-NABLE Web Central. We have this system that Thierry and e-NABLE France has put together. And for that matter, enabling the future is open for repositioning. And figuring out how best to configure all of those is a big opportunity. Frankly, those planets haven't aligned this way in the 10-year history of e-NABLE. So it's a good moment to sort of think through what needs to be done. But in the 10-year history of e-NABLE, Jeremy and I and Ben have all acquired lots of responsibilities, which have made us wary of taking on a really big project. It is also the case, however, that the e-NABLE Fund is at an all-time high water mark. And so we are actively trying to think about whether this is a good moment with our 10-year anniversary approaching to really take a fresh and deep look at the whole e-NABLE infrastructure for the 2020s, if you will. Okay, so that's an invitation to people to think broadly and to think about stepping up under a volunteer or potentially a non-volunteer arrangement to help lead this charge. Okay.
And I'll just point out there's a lot of middle ground there too. We've had people that have had success in putting forth projects where they might be offering their services on a paid basis, but they offer say a 50% discount to the e-NABLE community off of their normal rates. So you're getting some pay, not your normal rate. There's a lot of flexibility in how that could be approached.
Or as in the case of Alexander, they get paid for some particular well-defined piece of the project, and then we suck all of their other available time out of them as volunteers, and it works out great for us. But we do recognize that that's our dynamic, and that's what makes e-NABLE great. Okay. Any other sort of general announcements or calls before we get to Zeynep's news?
Just a
Okay.
heads up, I added in the chat a link to the call for volunteers, which is the pin post in the hub. We'll be updating that with some opportunities for people if they're interested.
Yeah, and I guess I will say on this theme, as a distributed, almost leaderless organization, the chapter leaders are potentially the pillars of our community. This is the Chapter Leaders Roundtable. I would like to think that while there are only 7 of us on this call, there are more chapter leaders who will eventually watch this video. And if you do, hear that this is your moment to step up and take the leadership skills and the knowledge that you've developed about e-NABLE and help craft the global network based on what you have uniquely learned in your local network.
Maybe just as one quick last thing too, the device pilots meeting, which is at the end of the month, is something that we're setting up now for chapters to host. So this is something for any chapters that have a relationship with device users. They can have basically an open conversation. This month's will be with Paraguay. So the meetings will be, or the conversation will be in Spanish between the team and some of their device users, and they'll talk about their experiences together. But for other months, if anybody's interested, anybody in this call or anybody watching, your chapter can host that event. So thanks.
I have one other footnote on this theme, which is that the Amputee Coalition, Alexander called our attention to the fact that the Amputee Coalition has a meeting in Phoenix in August, and they put out a call for papers. And I have indeed submitted an abstract entitled 10 Years of e-NABLE, some subtitle that implies that we're looking backwards 10 years and forward 10 years. And the abstract says we're now all over the world, got chapters in 60 some countries and volunteers all over the world with them, thousands of devices. And that in the United States, in some parts of the world rather, I pointed out that we chapter leaders are scrambling to keep up with demand. And that in the United States, actually, we have an overabundance of volunteers. And so I'm going to be talking to the Amputee Coalition to talk about how best to engage with that community in order to ensure that anyone who needs a prosthetic device can get one. And so that also is sort of trying to address a pattern that's become very clear here, which is that the balance of makers to device wanters varies around the world, and we have to address it in different ways in different places. Okay, this concludes our random series of updates and introductions. Zeynep Karagosh from Robotel Turkey has news and an update and a presentation for us.
Hey, clapping myself. Thank you for all the info and very good place to recruit volunteers who are already volunteers. I always say volunteers make a lot of very good volunteers for the next project. I recruit volunteers from other NGOs most of the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're used to volunteering. So we're a Turkish chapter, just a quick summary, that has reached the volunteer number around 3,500 and with approximately 600 3D printers. And we've done more than 120 children's hands, which doesn't mean 120, but more, because the first hand, the first kid hand that we made, she's now got her 6th hand. She's getting her 6th hand. It's been 5 years, the first kid that we made. But we have a lot of kids waiting. And this is the good news that mostly consider them. we've been mostly working with our own resources, the 3 founders and a core group of people, volunteers ranging from 5 to 20 or 40 or maybe 100 at times. Working together, I mean, but the 3,000 is all that is registered at the moment, not working all the time. And we didn't have any income. Most of the donations were made by people or with our acquaintances or the people that we made business with. And over the last few years, we have been trying, partially succeeding in making corporate sponsorship deals, different kinds of deals. For example, we introduced team working workshops, seminars, trainings for corporations, and made them commit a period of time ranging from a few months to a year to our NGO, and we wanted them to make a donation in regards to the training that we gave them. And at the end, after we trained them on how to do an e-NABLE hand, we actually gave them a case. And they actually did a kid's hand, which was the main motivation with a lot of collaborations with corporations, but they also made other contributions like making a seminar, making awareness talks, communication tools, or small donations as well. And we had been trying to knock on the doors of several big companies, especially in the beginning when we first started, to get a sponsorship that could lift us off and make us more sustainable. But we didn't get very far in the beginning. And we saw that the more we knocked on doors, the more we lost our energy trying to convince them rather than doing hands and making the effort to build up a team. So we turned our focus away from getting sponsorships and doing the work, actually, which paid off after we were for responsibility project, a social responsibility project for the first few years, and then we officially became an NGO in 2017. And then we started making projects with the corporations. And last year, one of the big companies that we had been knocking on doors for a few years, I think 6 years now, but we didn't lose touch. We just didn't pursue them as much. Knocked on our door and said that they said that they were sponsoring talented high school kids class. Several classes, actually. They were sponsoring several classes around the country. It's a big communication firm, Turkcell in Turkey. It's the biggest mobile company in Turkey. And they are sponsoring these high school kids who are talented, who are above average, let's say, with IQs and so forth. And they have classes that give extra curricular training to these kids. And they connected us with the Ministry of Education. And we did a project last year with them. During the COVID pandemic, we trained them online on how to make a hand. And then we asked them to do the test hand. We actually gave the last of the training on assembly face-to-face. We went there. It was at the other end of our country, which was quite a bit. And then when they finished the hand, we asked them to do a case, an actual case for a kid. And it wasn't the first. We had done something like this a while ago with very, very talented special kids, but it was the first with online education, the first with a class doing something in a different city and so forth. And they made the hand. And I have a small video that I want to share with you, very, very short. Here it goes. And I can speak on top of it because I turned it mute. So you just see the pictures of the kids. This is from the training that was done face-to-face in Erzurum, in the very east part of Turkey. They're high school students, and we let them do the assembly of several kinds of hands in the training. And after the training, they did this hand to a girl in the middle north part of Turkey, and they sent it. And because this project was a success, and Turkcell liked the way we worked, they asked us how many kids are waiting. Actually, we hadn't updated our website, and it was saying 120. It's more than that. We just left it at that number. We had, and they said, we saw 120. Tell us how much it will cost to do the hands for 120. And we said, okay, wait a minute. We calculated. We did a small business plan for them. And it took approximately 5 to 6 months to get the approval of the board members. But they were on board. To our surprise, we didn't expect it. And at the end of last year, they gave the go to the project, which was a 1-year plan to do the 120 hands that were waiting in the lists. Well, it's a very, very big success, or at the same time a stepping point for us, because I think this is the moment that we have the resources not only to do the hundreds and so cases, but we can turn this small self-running marathon running NGO to a more sustainable model. And we are working in regards to that. So we are trying to build a professional team that will do the hands, design the hands that are waiting in the list. But we are also trying to see the big picture and do other stuff. So we have the half of the funds. We'll yeah, I mean, I'm so happy. I'm sorry.
That's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the university that was hosting us as a place, we had classroom kind of workshop space that was donated to us by a university to use with a small fee. They wanted it out just as the project was coming off, and they didn't know about the project. If they knew, they might not have, but we were trying to work together on a project, and we hadn't been successful, but we saw this as an opportunity to move to a better place. So we've been working on that too, and we've been delayed in starting the making of the hands and building the professional team, because we had to change places as well, but we've done that. We've actually moved into a mall, kind of mall, in a residential area, a very central part of Istanbul. But we had been talking with the executives of the residency and the mall, and they gave us a place, a store place, which is right in the middle of the traffic. With a small fee, again, not free, but again, affordable fee. And we've made the move. We are currently undergoing decoration and getting the place ready.
I think this is the first I've heard of an e-NABLE chapter with a storefront clinic location. That's pretty interesting.
My co-founder and life partner Sardar is actually working. We're initially architects, two of us, and we have been pondering on the repurposing of the mall, which is like not very usable, not very popular anymore. But I think it's going places to more health and culture kind of places. So we actually convinced the management with our case, saying that you have to repurpose your places, not only stores, to make this traffic sustainable. So that was our case. And we've also asked some Turkish paint companies to sponsor us in the decoration of the place. I found graffiti artists who will donate their work on the place. I've been going around everywhere saying, what can you do for the NGO that is going places at the moment? I'm using this as leverage to, I'm trying to use this project as leverage to build more projects. And it has coming. I mean, it has been working. We've started doing hands this week. We're going to go to another city on Sunday to actually deliver the hand in person, again flying, and with a documentary crew this time, which we also started with a volunteer. We do not have a sponsor yet, but she has volunteered to start the shooting, and we have gotten approval from the Ministry of Culture as well. And we are doing a Robotel song, which is also a donation from a choir and a rock band. I don't know what will come out of it.
The last one is called what? Robotel Home, did you say?
Song, yes.
Song, okay. Fantastic, keep going.
Yeah, no, that's it. And we've been invited to several congress around Turkey with the Pediatric Doctors Association. And I was gonna say that could be a lead for you too. Like we have gotten a lot of cases from doctors, but the most efficient doctors were either orthopedic doctors or pediatric doctors, and some physical therapists. So we have been invited to show our NGO in the Turkish National Congress of Pediatry in May. I don't know, we're looking for a sponsor to go there. So still it's not for certain that we'll go. But things are looking good, and we have founded the team, the professional team. We have on board 2 students and 1 actual newly designer, in addition to the 4 core members of our group, which is me, the other 2 partners, mechanical engineer, architect, and our 4th volunteer, who is doing all the logistic and the assembly work, and he's the most experienced in that part. He's on the video as well, doing the assembly. And I think we're going to need more volunteers and part-time workers in the future. What we did was what Jeremy said. Ourselves decided that the staff that is going to be professional would be paid, but approximately 50%, like you said, Jeremy, not full amount. Or you could say that we donate half of our time, from which angle you take it. So we're also contacting other professionals, especially in the NGO community in Turkey, where we need people who need to write projects for donation, for funds to go on, to sustain the further projects, and to manage the volunteers more efficiently, to do software, to take care of the technical stuff and everything. Do I have my notes, anything? And we are also looking for partners for logistics, because 75% of the cases that we are taking on are not in Istanbul. So that's a lot of traveling for us in the future. That's it, I think. Did I fill my 10 minutes or?
Oh, it doesn't matter. You could take another 10 if you've got more to talk about.
You know, this is what's really interesting here is, Zeynep, are there other major chapters in Turkey, or is it really Robotel is covering the whole country? That's the impression I get.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are covering
So-
the whole country.
So you're doing that, and then e-NABLE France is in a similar position. I don't know. There might be other chapters in France, but the e-NABLE France certainly has like coverage of the country, and it's really interesting to me how much you two accomplish just operating in that mode. There's something really powerful about, you know, having that level of organization. I don't know. I mean, here in the U.S., we have, you know, a whole bunch of different chapters, and you know, no one of them is really kind of taking the lead in making sure that the needs of our region are being fully addressed. And it's interesting to me how much you guys are getting done under that model that you're operating there. I don't know what to do with that, but it's just something that catches my attention.
Comment on that. I thank you, first of all. But I think, I mean, we are very similar with France, Theo. I think we differ in some angles, because I think their foundation is more sustainable than ours at the time. As far as I see it, they have a board, they have a software that has been built and running. Their system is more, how do I say, constructed than ours. But I think we have a more organic outreach in Turkey, where we have a lot of young people, volunteers that want to be a part of it, and we have, I think, good communication skills that we've been able to find a lot of people that are in need. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I think that's got to be part of it. That's got to be part of it, because you know, that's what strikes me, is that both you and Theo have really great collaborations, both with your government and with other sort of, you know, medical organizations and things like that. And I wonder if part of that is because of the, you know, whenever you're trying to develop relationships with these other entities, sure, it's going to be helpful if you have that kind of clarity of coming from one group, one entity. I'm just imagining that here in the US, you know, these different associations, well, they probably have been contacted by a dozen different e-NABLE groups or volunteers, none of them knowing that the others have even contacted them. And I don't know, it gives us a lot to think about how we can duplicate some of your success.
It's a good point. But, you know, the other side of it is that in Turkey, and I'd be interested in an update on this, I think one of the drivers of e-NABLE Turkey was the Syrian conflict, right? Where there was a great amount of unmet need, and you were able to fill that gap. Does memory serve correctly, Zeynep?
I think that's an illusion. Yeah, that was a great communication advantage. There were a lot of Syrian kids. I mean, not as much as the Turkish ones. We met with the Syrian refugee NGOs during the first years of the conflict, and we have been meeting with them after that. But let me tell you, they came up in the first year, they came up with 20 cases first. Only one was kid. And then the 19 people were adults who had lost their hands, mostly because of the war. And one of the adults was from birth. So it's 18 adults from the war. No, 17 adults from the war. And one adult had lost his hand in Turkey during a work accident. And they didn't want the 3D printed hands when they were asked. They wanted the hand-looking, skin-looking prosthetics. And we did the kid who wanted the Batman hand. It was after that we did two, I think, more Syrian refugee kids that we found out. As far as numbers go, we didn't do that many refugee hands, but we did help with setting up maker spaces in refugee area.
So does that suggest then, Zainab, that most of what you're doing today is helping kids? Are most of the devices you're making for kids these days?
Exactly. I mean,
Okay.
Adults are not priority in our cases. Adult cases are harder because of aesthetics, for complicated hand requests and so forth. And finally, in the healthcare system, somewhat they can get a prosthetic.
Mm-hmm.
But kids are not able to most of the time.
Right.
And so we prioritize kids, and that's the main goal here. And I think 99 or 97, I mean, around that percentage are the the people who have applied to us are kids.
Ben.
Just a, sort of a segue. Zainab mentioned that one of the things that they did in the very beginning was, learning about the situation in Turkey and the needs, and then also setting up a makerspace at the refugee camp. So, I'm interested. It seems like if there was a playbook on how to move forward in terms of doing something like this on a similar level, Robotel, unlike all the chapters in the US, is a regional chapter. So they had to figure out, their network and local resources. But then there's also being able to set up partnerships like the makerspace. I'd love to learn more about how that worked for Robotel, and think about how important it is to set up that regional network to move forward and set up something like a makerspace, because that is something that's come up. I know there's been a couple regions that have needed help, and there's been some potential projects looking at doing that.
And if you don't mind me adding on to that question, we actually had some discussion a while back where we were exploring this possibility of sort of setting up a template for spinning up maker spaces, sort of a clinic / makerspace. And one of the things that we sort of hypothesized is that once you get a makerspace like that set up, not only will you be able to make prosthetic devices and things like that for people, but that it would also enable that community to start doing other kinds of problem solving. Maybe they need to, make a part to fix a broken machine, or a water pump, or who knows what. But it would enable them to start doing other things for themselves. So I'm also curious if you've seen some of that, Zainab, when you've set up these maker spaces.
Well, the makerspace idea has been a very essential and crucial part of our work, actually. And when we first started doing hands, it was 2014-15. But when we first started working with kids, it's 2016. We also met with the maker movement, volunteered in that, and said that this is not sustainable. We are not making money from anything. We're all volunteering. And the makerspace, our makerspace idea, is a social entrepreneurship idea that was based on giving technology-based education and training and workshops in the makerspace that we could earn money from, and then continue to do our volunteer work. That's how we survived. And that's how we got bigger, actually, because in every 3D printing class, we were talking about e-NABLE. And in every 3D e-NABLE or Robotel conference, we were talking about the makerspace. So they all fed each other. And first we started with kids, and because they're more open to everything. And then came schools, and then came corporations. we did a lot of training, train the trainer. We did a lot of content for schools. We even worked with the Ministry of Education to insert robotics and coding into the government system. I mean, we were the training educational partner of Intel in Turkey, as far as the social entrepreneurship goes. We made the two identities separate. The Volunteer Robotel, which is an NGO, has no income, but we had income from the company, from the makerspace, and we put those resources in use for the NGO as well. But saying that, the maker movement has gone up, 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 and then moved down, and the money-making machine started not to make so much money. So that became problematic because, and added to that, the pandemic stopped all face-to-face training. And now we are in an era that we have to rethink about the makerspace as well. I mean, we have been thinking, because we thought if we build a makerspace and if we do, I mean, we've been looking at the makerspaces in the US and how they survived, and we've been researching about what they did to stay alive, because a lot of them died out, as far as we know, because they were not sustainable. The membership thing didn't work in Turkey. We tried. Adults didn't come. I mean, the only few members were foreigners living in Turkey that found out about us and became members for a while. But the workshops, the training, the coding, the robotic, that thing worked. So we are thinking of establishing an improved version. We are not sure about how it's going to work, but we are thinking like, if you become a member of the makerspace, you're also a donator to the NGO. We're thinking of including models like this, and we decided the answer is to go with corporate collaborations. We cannot sustain by personal members and so forth a makerspace. Even if we had a lot of kids who were still able to come, and they can't because of the pandemic tent. They are trying. They are beginning to, but I don't see it coming back to the numbers before the pandemic ever. So that is not going to be enough to sustain an entity like this. You have to build corporate collaborations on that. Yeah, sure.
Add to that your comment about malls. I don't know whether this is going on in Turkey, but in the United States, and I suspect in much of the West, there are all of these empty malls because so much has gone online. They've got these big community spaces, and increasingly they're used for people who want to go for long walks or have other kinds of social events, or rollerblading from empty store to empty store. So there's a lot of unused real estate. And as we all know, there's also sort of an empty core at the heart of our communities these days. That a makerspace, as I think it sounds like you're convincing your mall owners, a makerspace in that kind of a setting, not as a profitable venture necessarily, but as a community hub to draw people together, is an interesting model to think about. And I think one of the things that also has emerged in the COVID years is the notion that this reservoir of makers and of volunteers and of community organizations is an important social safety net. And it needs to be sustained and supported, not by developing its own commercial business model, because that may not be its true value, but it should be supported for all of the co-benefits that emerge from it. And I'm beginning to think that this notion of society recognizing these organizations that support a healthy society might be an emerging pattern that we could get on board, saying our job is not to become profitable businesses. Our job is to create the kind of society in which many people find many ways to sustain themselves monetarily and financially and spiritually and as lifelong learners and so on. It's an emerging argument. I don't know whether it's going to take, but I do see that you seem to be finding that the corporations recognize that they can get glory by supporting something that everyone recognizes as valuable. And
Exactly.
yeah.
I agree with you completely. It's I think, a hybrid solution for everything. Like education, we are not able to do it online completely, and we cannot go back to the way we were at all. It's something. I think it goes the same with NGOs and entrepreneurship. I mean, we've been in the sector and the business of entrepreneurship along with the makerspace that we did with the NGO that we built, and I think none of it is sustainable. Like NGOs and living off donations, I mean, we have to find a cure for that. So but only going after the money, it's not sustainable either. You go die, I mean, you just die off because you completely finish yourself. So I think social entrepreneurship will save the world. I don't know, that's my point of view. But I think like we need to find a hybrid solution. Like makers should be able to make money from some of the stuff, at least they do, or from their knowledge by training people, or doing content, making content. They should be able to earn money so that they can continue to do the volunteer and community building work that they do. And I think this pandemic also provided a chance to make that visible again. Like the curve that I told you about, the maker movement going down, up and down with the pandemic, it made a small up again, because like Lithuania, I mean, we didn't need that much the makers stepping up to do a lot of the stuff. I mean, the government took care of most of the things here, but the initial setup with the masks and everything, the maker movement made the fastest response, yes, and the best response, and they were visible again. And our responsibility, I mean, we feel that is to show them that it's not using the 3D printers only. It's using the sewing machines, it's using the other stuff, being multidisciplinary and being able to move through that to that and so forth. And that's the sense of the maker, I think.
So we have 7 minutes. I want to make a point, then I want to give Ben a chance to introduce Hariye. The point I wanted to make.
She's our director of the documentary.
So let's do that first. Go ahead.
Ben, should I?
Maybe you can just mention the project that you guys are working on together. I noticed that she is on YouTube in the chat. So just as one of the participants of this, maybe you could talk a little bit about that project and the work you're doing together.
Yeah, sure. I'll make a short notice since we don't have much time. I'm hoping to introduce some shots later when we meet again, maybe in a few months, not next month. Hayriye Savaşçıoğlu has volunteered to do the documentary of Robotel, the e-NABLE chapter, including maybe other international chapters maybe as well. I'm dreaming we can shoot in the US and France and UK and Germany too. I will go to that later. And she has been making documentaries for a long time. I'm speaking in behalf of her. Sorry for that. Maybe she'll introduce herself later. She has worked with kids in Africa, and she has made a lot of documentaries here in Turkey. And she is looking for funds to sponsor the documentary, but being an ex-camera person herself, she started shooting.
That's fantastic. Listen, you've mentioned a few times that she's seeking funding, that you're seeking funding to go to this conference. Your friends at e-NABLE Earth are standing by, wondering how they can support this wonderful stuff you're doing. And you know, you're clearly breaking ground that we think is very valuable to the organization as a whole. If this documentary and a trip to the States is part of what you would like to do for your own purposes, that I think would also add an international element to what you're doing. But I just want to remind you that we really, really value what you're doing. We're very proud of you for your perseverance and now your success. And I can see that you're thinking big and feeling liberated. So let us help you. We're proud of you too.
Okay, I'll come with a structured document.
Excellent. Okay. We did want to mention that there is a new opportunity for filament for European chapters. I can share my screen, I suppose, and click the link that Ben, no, I can't. Ben, why don't you do the screen sharing and just give your little commercial?
Okay. Hold on one moment. Let me pop this open for you guys. So we had a post in the hub. Just scroll down for a moment. From Filament PM in the Czech Republic. So anybody who's interested in trying out the skin colors that they are piloting, they use PLA Plus. And there's some details in here about the different tones that they have. But there's a amount of free filament available, 300 grams of skin color filament. So if anybody is interested, especially in Europe, it's going to be easiest for shipping. You can follow up with her. You can see her email here.
To ship to us. I didn't write because I didn't know if it was going to be possible to ship to Turkey.
Probably.
I would suspect from the Czech Republic, but definitely maybe follow up with her and check it out.
And I don't know how active she is. And I was the one, she reached out to me by email and I told her to post something in the hub, but I don't know how active she is in the hub. So you might want to just email directly. The email address is there.
Okay.
And I can share the email address in the chat. Make it easy.
So we have 2 minutes. I'll make the point I wanted to make before, which is that in the parallel work I'm doing right now on an e-NABLE-like eco-restoration alliance, global network volunteers trying to do things that governments have failed to do. There, the mechanism of carbon credits is becoming a mechanism by which society values and compensates people for doing things that are for the greater good. And this discussion we've just had about malls and co-benefits of e-NABLE and makerspaces and so on really does have me thinking that it may be an interesting moment to begin looking at larger patterns by which these volunteer organizations can find structured revenue streams for this mixed social entrepreneurship model of the sort that you're thinking about, Zainab. So just a seed to plant. But as you have said, social entrepreneurship will save the world if the world figures out how to sustain social entrepreneurship, which it hasn't really done yet. they've left the social entrepreneurs, and you've made some progress here. So let's keep our eye on the even bigger picture as well.
Wouldn't that be nice if we lived in a world where our success was measured not by how much money we've accumulated, but by how much social entrepreneurship credit we've accumulated?
Well, that's right. It's not.
I've been attending meetings where impact is as much as measured as the profit that you have been making, and there has been a platform for social entrepreneurship in Turkey that has gathered, and they're making progress with little steps for the time being. There are not many funds available, and the law is not ready yet, but they have been trying to do stuff. So I have hope.
Very
Nice.
good.
Yeah,
Keep us posted.
Maybe it's worth mentioning that this isn't a new novel idea. There's all sorts of cultures that traditionally have valued, what could be given away as a measure of wealth, what you could afford to give away as a measure of wealth versus what you could stockpile for yourself. So
That's right. The rebirth of the gift economy.
Yeah.
All right. Zeynep, congratulations, and thank you for the presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
This discussion about larger patterns is a good example of what comes when we get these groups from around the world comparing notes. So I look forward to more of that. And
Nice to
Zeynep,
see
I
you all.
did see, on top of everything else, you're feeling capable of mentoring another chapter. So we will keep that in mind, and that'll probably be a topic of future conversation. Thank you, everybody.
And John, we got a message to stick around with Mazzy for a few minutes.
Right. You probably want to turn off the recording, and we'll stay here.
Sounds
Happy
good.
to see all of you guys. Anyone who needs to write to me in person, I will just text my email here. Yes. So
Super.
if you need to write to me in anything special, I'm available by email. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Let me
Okay.
stop the lives.